Well, Jay, I know you had some takes on Raw this past week and how, like, the continuing story of, like, New Day versus Bloodline, how you felt that they were, hot-shotting. We talked about hot-shotting last week, and there's more of that this week, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, a lot so on Raw. It's like they blew the whole load almost. It felt like, I mean, geez.
Short of another title change, it seems like.
Yeah, pretty much. And so when you start off with that New Day versus Bloodline match, that kicks it off hot, just like, you know, they did with Daniel Bryan and Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
I get it. Start your show off hot. That's a good way to get a crowd be like, holy shit, this is an awesome show. And so anyway, yeah. And then at the end of the night, you know, they had the big match between Roman Reigns and Bobby Lashley and Big E. That was a three-way. So
like a very similar thing to the first match, but with different ingredients. You know,
right? Well, it's like I said in the beginning of my Raw review. I was like, this is pretty much the match that like 2 days ago people were calling as the main event for a Survivor Series.
Yeah.
You know, and then all of a sudden, boom, we're having it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like the downside of hot-shotting is after you've done the big thing that maybe gets a pop or gets a rating, it's like, okay, then like what do you put in place of like what you just sacrificed for something down the line?
You know, here's just a funny thought, because do you remember before like the Monday Night Wars how at least I as a wrestling fan, it was like a slow enough progress on storylines and title changes that I could remember almost everything. Versus like when the Monday Night Wars started up, I was like, oh shit, I don't remember who the Intercontinental Champion was 6 months ago.
You know, it's funny because like that's how I feel about like, well, I started watching like in '98, so I have no real context of like what wrestling was like pre Monday Night War, but I remember actually having a pretty good memory of like title lineages from like when I began watching to like many years in the future. It's only like in the last like 5 years where there's a lot of like mid-card titles. I'm like, oh, that person had it? What? Like, so
oh, okay. I've always been like, I remembered things up until the Monday Night Wars, and they started flipping things so quick. So what I was going to say is I wonder if that's just going to be like the new thing, is because WWE's been kind of like, they just done their own thing because there was no competition, right? So now they have competition. They're having to actually have some good shows. So I just feel like maybe in general what they're doing here is they're making like a new culture, I guess, almost for like wrestling on TV. Like we're gonna have a lot more, you know, like action, hot-shotting, I guess you would call it hot-shotting, but it's really not hot-shotting. It's just crash TV.
Yeah, I mean that's the best way to describe it. Like I think that it's just a case of okay, you know, these companies like WWE has had these weapons in their arsenal for a long time, and they've always kind of like held back using it because like, oh, maybe down the line, maybe next year we'll get this big program, or maybe we'll do this, you know, on pay-per-view.
Right.
It's like really right now the culture is such that they're not afforded that luxury anymore. Like they have to produce like good content like now, like not do this piddly little bullshit they do every week to try and like maybe hopefully get you interested in the pay-per-view match. Like they gotta go with the gusto like now in the present, and then hopefully catch your attention for something down the line. And that's what I think they're doing now. And like I said, like it is, call it hot shotting, you can call it they're blowing their load or whatever, but I mean, and I'll say it again, between what WWE is doing, whether it is reactionary booking to AEW or not, when you combine what WWE is doing with what AEW is doing and with what other what other companies are doing right now, I think they're all kind of putting up their best work. It is, you know, say it with me, a great time to be a wrestling fan.
It absolutely is.
It's like, I don't understand why anyone is really, I mean, like there's little things like booking and like just, you know, the trajectory of certain characters like in certain companies that make you go, hey, like that sucks. But to paint it as like anything as a broad stroke thing, or of like, here's why this company is sucky and this why this one's awesome. It's like, it's hard to like get into the minutia of things, because like in the broad strokes, you look at what all these companies are doing. It's like they're putting out their best stuff and they're just trying to come back from the pandemic with like both barrels, and they're just trying to put out the best content. They're, like I said, they're giving people what they want. Like, we want good action, we want good characters, we want good promos, and I feel across the board things are kind of improving in that way. We're getting the big matches that we've wanted. They're putting an emphasis on characters who do know how to speak and control an audience and get them engaged. Everyone's doing that, I feel, to some extent.
I would love to be backstage at like a pre-show meeting with all the superstars, you know, and the agents or something, you know, in catering kind of thing, where everybody's sitting around, because you got to know there's people that are just frustrated sitting there like, hey, guys, Do you not see what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, I'm sure there's people talking.
And well, anyways, you did say something earlier about action. I want to talk about reactions to certain actions just real quick, because let's talk about Dave Meltzer's actions about claiming that there was 1,500 people that walked out during the Alexa and Charlotte segment on Raw. And so
yeah, it's very when I read that the first time, I didn't think much of it, and then like when you told me more about it like off air, I was like, this feels like a pretty dubious report, because first of all, like, no one is doing a proper head count, like, you know, with a little clicker when you walk into Costco and there's a person with a clicker there. No one's doing that and like counting the number of people leaving. And like, also, I think the reason this report came out was because like somebody has an axe to grind with the Alexa Charlotte storyline, and not because like literally every segment people are leaving the arena. You don't see it or you don't notice it, but people are always getting up during shows to go take a piss or go get a snack or a merch or something. And so this idea that like, oh, it's this segment and people are walking out, well, there must be causation. It's correlation, not causation.
I heard Brian Alvarez touch on it, and he said that basically what happened is that somebody within WWE messaged Dave and said that they can confirm 700 people had left. Well, Dave, for some reason, I guess, was it a tweet or something, said that, you know, 1,500 people had left.
See, I thought Meltzer was always about rounding down, you know, and giving the real number being less than the reported number.
I don't know about that. I don't know, man. You've seen some of those star ratings.
Yeah.
But that being said, I guess what happened was that person within WWE was like, whoa, I never said 1,500. And could confirm for sure at least 700. But, you know, here's the thing too, is that you're looking at like, let's say a 4-hour long show that you're sitting at, you know, including the pre-show and all that kind of shit, right? So, you know, you want to beat traffic. There's easily going to be, out of 15,000 people, you know, 700 people that get up and leave at, you know, at 10 o'clock instead of 11 because they want to beat the traffic. And those people don't want to stay and sit in traffic who aren't going to get home at midnight.
And you brought up a good point we were talking about yesterday, that, you know, they knew what the main event was going to be. It was Roman, Big E, and Lashley. And you know what?
They'd already seen him earlier in the night.
You already saw a couple of parts of that in the opening matchup. And like, what could you get? What, you know, if you went into this thing and you hadn't seen the match yet, what could have possibly happened in that match that you would have taken away from that would have been really worth watching the whole thing? So I can get that. If Charlotte and Alexa is like the semi-main segment or the penultimate like segment on a show, yeah, I can buy the idea of maybe trying to beat the traffic and stuff if you already kind of know what you're getting with that main event. But besides that, it's like I think that hearing that number or hearing the report about it, it just seems so. That seems
Alexa was pissed.
Yeah, and it seems like I think she fought back on Meltzer for that as well. And so that's the more I think about it, the more I realize it's like a bullshit story that Meltzer is putting out there. And again, you can't make a direct connection of these people are leaving because of Charlotte and Alexa. That to me comes off as just someone with a bias against one or both of those ladies and saying, well, here's this and here's proof that, you know, that they suck.
Right.
So
right, absolutely. Until I see something like a video of droves of people leaving, who gives a shit, honestly.
Want to hear more? Subscribe to This Week in Regret on YouTube for full episodes of the podcast, dropping every Thursday night. Don't forget, we're also on SoundCloud.